Hello and welcome to another episode of the program. I'm Simisola Adigun. Well, it's been one drama or the other playing out between former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in connection with a case of alleged money laundering to the tune of 80 billion naira. The EFCC has now declared the former governor wanted for offences relating to economic and financial crimes. But this was after the EFCC was granted a warrant of arrest by the Federal High Court in Abuja to apprehend the former governor. But that didn't happen as the current governor, Ahmed Ododo, allegedly prevented the arrest of his predecessor at his Abuja residence on Wednesday. Before then, Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja had overruled the order granted by the Kogi State High Court restraining the anti-graft agency from arresting the former governor. While at the resumed sitting on Thursday, counsel for the EFCC, Kemi Pinheiro, told the court that the immediate past governor of Kogi State was absent because he was being protected by someone with immunity. Pinheiro said that the EFCC operators were prepared to carry out the arrest warrant for the former governor, even if it requires the use of force. Well, to get a legal perspective to the matter, Evans Ofeli, who's of course a legal expert, joins me on the program. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ofeli. Now, should someone of Yahaya Bello's caliber at his level be resisting arrest?
Well, that is an unwise decision Yahaya Bello has taken, and I find it rather repugnant. In the EFCC is extend a letter of invitation to you on the basis of investigation. All you need to do as a citizen of the country is to honor the invitation. You understand? So to answer questions, it's not the first person, ex-governor that have been asked to come and see the EFCC, be invited to the EFCC. We saw the case of Obiano, the former governor of Anambra State, when a day after he left power, he was heading to the US, and the EFCC intercepted him and took him to their facility. Okay? To answer a question, he did that and he went back to the US. His passport has been returned to him and he has gone to the US. So if there's any allegation like that, and the EFCC is investigating, you need to support them in that investigation. Because what they are doing now is a comedy of errors, the theater of instability, where someone who have attained that position will now be resisting arrest. And to make matter worse, the current governor, who have just joined the fray, to use his political power to, get the governor out. This is a governor, talking about Ododo, the governor who swore to the Constitution, who swore by the Constitution to defend the laws of this country, is now involved in this kind of issue. So it tells you that we're not serious as a people. This shameful act of our politicians doing things anyhow, it should come to an end. It should come to an end. EFCC, no law can stop the EFCC from investigation because their primary role, their primary function must be discharged. Okay? And they're talking about an order of court in Kogi State that says that he should not be investigated or prosecuted. A restraining order. Another one obtained by the EFCC in Abuja, the Federal High Court, stating that he be prosecuted and investigated. So I think this is quite wrong for you to have Yahaya Bello doing that, and to make it worse, the current governor now gets into the fray. In doing that, it shows that we're not loyal to this country. Our allegiance is not to this country. Our allegiance is to illegality. And the law enforcement agencies, their own issue, even make matter worse completely. Because the DSS, for example, ought to know. If a governor is leading you to a flash point where the law will be violated, the DSS will talk to the governor. Okay, but here we are loyal to our survivor, the DSS, because they are attached to the governor. They couldn't tell him the truth. They couldn't tell him what he ought to do. He led them and they followed him. And now, if the EFCC had resisted the governor's vehicle and Yahaya Bello's personal security was also there, this would have led to a theater of a war where people would start to, law enforcement agencies will start to take the laws into their hands and start to do things unlawfully.
Yeah, so like you mentioned earlier that there are conflicting court judgments at play here in respect to the attempt to arrest the former governor by the EFCC. One court permits the anti-graft agency to arrest Bello, while the other orders a restraining. Now, does one judgment supersede the other?
Well, not a judgment. These are rulings of two different courts, and they are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. The two courts, they are of the same class in terms of power. But one was filed in Kogi State. The one in Kogi State, in the Council of Yahaya Bello, granted by a judge there. The EFCC filed another one. You see, the truth is that in law, the first in time is supposed to prevail. Okay, but in this case, it is not lawful for a court of law to grant an order restraining a government agency from carrying out its official duty under the law. If the government agency is already in dereliction of duty or they are abusing their powers, you can file that motion to ask the court to restrain them from further abuse or from further violation of your fundamental rights. You can do that. But you cannot file a motion asking the court to restrain them from carrying out their function, and the court will yield to that. Okay.
But some people
so what you have here is that the EFCC
a court order
have
here.
the power.
Some people are of the opinion that the EFCC is flouting a court order here.
Yes, because the EFCC also have an order. They have an order of the Federal High Court. Okay? So if one order is not validly made and another court gives an order contrary to that one that's not validly made, then you can see that there's crisis. Okay, because what you're supposed to do is when you have a valid order, when you have an order of court, you are supposed to first of all file a motion to vacate that order. And then in the same motion, you now ask the court to make an order in your own favor. Okay, but in this case, EFCC filed the motion in Abuja and obtained that order to go do the arrest, irrespective of the one. So what EFCC ought to have done was to get that order already granted vacated. You understand? Yeah. So in that sense, you will say that the first order is actually the valid order because first in time prevail. Okay?
Yes.
So under our law, that is why in election petition and pre-election matters, you are meant to file another affidavit called affidavit of non-duplicity. Non-duplicity to say that this particular matter I'm filing, I have not filed it in any other court. You swear an oath, okay, depose to that affidavit before you are allowed to file the substantive suit. Okay, that is what is that in order to, because the NJC came up with that in order to arrest this issue of embarrassment, where you have two courts of coordinate jurisdiction giving conflicting orders, one asking the court, one asking an agency not to act, another one asking the agency to act. So, but in this case, the two orders came in almost one the other day. So you couldn't have said that while PSC was aware there's a standing order. And their constitutional responsibility they ought to carry out. So these issues are giving us so much problem in this country where we have concurrent jurisdiction, court of coordinate jurisdiction acting out with different court order, and that makes it very messy. And it's an embarrassment to our judicial system that a court will give a different order, another court will give, if it's a court of higher jurisdiction, if it's a higher court, that makes sense because it means that the higher court has override the decision of the lower court. But that the same court of the same one a federal high court, one a state high court that have the same jurisdiction, the same class, will now be giving conflicting judgment, and that puts a lot of strain on the integrity and fidelity of our judicial system.
Now, this whole issue makes it seem like Yahaya Bello is trying to prove himself above the law. Does it mean that he will not be tried eventually?
Well, once he's arrested and there's a prima facie case against him, he will be prosecuted. Okay, he no longer have immunity. Before now, as a governor, he has immunity, but now he does not have immunity any longer. And because he does not have immunity, he can be prosecuted. Okay, all he needs to do is to walk along with the EFCC. If he's not guilty of the offense, he will not be convicted. But if he's guilty, he will go in for it. Okay, so this running away, where is he running to now? And the governor of that state that is now an accomplice, that is taking him out in vehicle and taking him to escape justice. What is that for? Where are they running to? I mean, in this country, we should change this kind of thing that we're doing. When you know that you're an ex-governor, for Christ's sake. An ex-governor will mean you have considerable knowledge of the workings of things. You're running to where now?
So finally now, Yahaya Bello was not present in the courtroom on Thursday, and now the EFCC says it is mulling the military option against him. Now, do you agree that the anti-graft agency should actually involve the military?
I don't think they should involve the military. We're not in a war situation. The anti-graft agency have the rights and have all the powers under the law to arrest them. Because if you get the military now, when they get to now that is under the protective custody of the current governor Dodo, they take the military there, and the military, they may decide to open fire with the DSS. So this is the time that the executive should step into this matter and withdraw. I read the news just now, the news flash just now, that I don't know how true that is, that the president, has ordered the Bello to make himself available for to answer questions with the EFCC. I don't know how true that is, but that is exactly what they should do now. People who know Yahaya Bello, people in authority, to advise him to submit himself to the EFCC for whatever purpose. He has his rights under the law should not be violated too. Because one of the reasons people run away from the EFCC is that once they arrest a suspect, they begin to treat the suspect as a criminal, as one who has been convicted. They begin to act out. So the EFCC also should mind how they treat people, so that people who are suspects will be able to submit themselves freely to them to carry out the investigation and all that. But this running away, you are not running to anywhere. They are making the matter worse by running away. There's no governor in recent times that don't have a case one or two to answer with the EFCC. And that doesn't mean they should be running up and down. It's not good for the optics of our democratic engagement.
Well, we wait and see what happens next with Yahaya Bello and with the EFCC. Legal expert Evans Ofeli, many thanks for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
All right, now we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion with a political affairs analyst. Do stay with us. Well, let's discuss this further. I'm now being joined by political affairs analyst Akin Fatunke. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Fatunke. Now, this whole case between Yahaya Bello and the EFCC. Now, do you think that the EFCC is flouting court orders of restraint from arresting Bello here as alleged by the former governor?
Thank you very much, Simisola. Nice to be here. I like to say that one of these drama that happened in our country, which I guess is becoming one time too many. How on earth will I sit here as an informed analyst and say the AFCC has flouted? No, the AFCC has not flouted. The AFCC, in accordance to what we have been told, actually went with warrant of arrest. Now, what I am not sure, because this goes through a particular process, was Governor Yahaya Bello formally invited? Why did he now turn into wanting to come and arrest him? It must have been a situation where he had made himself c'est pas de moi, like the French would say, that he was the state, was above the law. Now, I also must say that we had, again, two conflicting reports.
Yes.
That the High Court in Kogi had given a restraint that he should not be arrested by EFCC.
EFCC.
So if when all put together and that Makaba dance that happened, I think again it was a naked show of power. And let me say, without necessarily sounding moralistic, the AFCC not only had a warrant of arrest, but they did not even go to the extent of invoking Section 33 of the Constitution, that anybody that obstructs they wanting to obstruct or deter, arresting somebody that has a court order like that, if anything happened, they will not be liable. We normally don't want to say this, but I think the EFCC has acted the moral, quote-unquote, gentleman and decided not to do anything untoward, despite what Governor Ududu did. Have shot at the tires, would have done anything, and lives would have been lost. So, one word, therefore, is I am not convinced that the EFCC acted ultra-bias in what they did in trying to arrest Governor Yahaya Bello yesterday, 17th of April, 2024.
All right, now the EFCC has threatened to employ the military to arrest Governor Yahaya Bello. That involved the military in this case. Now, do you agree with the EFCC to go in this direction?
Yeah, Sola, I made a reference. It's not always something that you hear in the public space. Okay? It's there in our Constitution. You cannot obstruct. You cannot obstruct arrest. You should not obstruct arrest. Even whatever building that you are in or hiding, even if it was a building that somebody that has an immunity, that building could be brought down. So frustration is now setting in. I pray and I hope it not gets to that level, since the federal government has now intervened and asked Yahaya Bello, Mr. Yahaya Bello, to comply. I think reason will prevail. But to say that the EFCC don't have a right to go that extra mile in getting the military to want to assist. Since the DSS, the police, show of power is going on, again showing of shame, that tells you that some of us that are clamoring for state police, we might be having another rethink if this kind of thing can go. So, to me, very difficult and hard to say. I hope it not gets to that extent. But if it happens, I am not sure that the EFCC will be again considered to be ultra biased.
Now let's discuss the action of the current governor, Usman Ododo, stopping the EFCC from carrying out its lawful duties. That's whisking the governor away just when he was about to be arrested. Now, should the governor be taking sides with his predecessor?
They say blood is thicker than water. Again, when it comes to Nigeria, we don't expect rules, we don't respect institutions. So if your son, if your daughter, if your wife, if your husband is found culpable, you will be the first to want to shield. You know, this cultural backward way of thinking and integrating, it just does not make sense. What Mr. Ododo did was a misuse of his immunity. I think purely and squarely, that was irresponsible, that was unexpected. He risked his life in the process. He has risked his reputation and the reputation of Nigerians, including yours and mine. And that, in fact, in all...
The governor probably thinks he's transferring his immunity to protect, you know, his predecessor.
Quote and unquote, maybe a criminal, maybe an armed robber, maybe a terrorist. You know, so you've got to have your day in court. What he did was very, very wrong. I want to believe that he acted very naively. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And something tells me, Simsola, that he will pay dearly for it with his reputation.
So finally, I mean, we've seen every administration promising that it will tackle corruption, but this is what happens once the tenure ends. The EFCC starts, you know, going after a past governor to investigate one corruption case or the other, embezzlement or the other, and it seems like an unending cycle. Now, how should this issue of embezzlement by political leaders be tackled?
Oh, well, perhaps you remove the roof. You remove this imbecilic immunity clause. It has its place in the Constitution, no doubt about that. But when more and more people are flouting it, people who are not ready or trained or mentally, physically, and spiritually ready to govern, get onto the saddle, and they mess up the place. So that is one. Secondly, I am an advocate of the law. The law may be slow. The law may crawl, but the law will eventually catch up. Today becoming the tomorrow we talked about yesterday, even it's 4 years, means 8 years, it will eventually catch up with you. The only snag, perhaps, is if the law caught up with you there and then, well, the punishment can come instanter. But as a situation where you thought you have had a reputation, you have had children, you have so many things going on, and then suddenly it becomes a question of it being from grace to grass, please go and ask Fayoshe. Go and ask the likes of Aleme Sega. Go and ask the likes of, Ibori. Even Nelson Wike, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today, President Bola Tinubu, had to subject himself. After his governorship, he went into the dock. So if there is nothing for you to fear, why are you running? And in any case, if you have committed the crime, you pay. You do the time. You answer to the crime. 84 billion in a state that is neither here or there, where you had suzerainized with a lot of impunity allegedly. Come on. And you are one of the youngest. Not too young to run.
Not too young to
are you not putting all these things in jeopardy just for your selfish reason? Subject yourself to the court process. You don't have to be afraid, and you don't have to continue to disgrace yourself and disgrace the whole lot of us. A time of reckoning will come. It may be too late. And I understood your question. I don't want you to feel that I am circumventing your question. You know, I can understand. Sometimes it should be instanter. And if it's going to be instanter, then we begin to look at the immunity clause again. The immunity clause again. Is it serving the interest of Nigeria, given the examples that I have given you? Yes. When the eyes are all fully gone and you cannot see again, then what's next? that you want to have?
All right.
The state assembly is up to their responsibilities. A proper state of assembly, as I speak with you, with proper sense of shame, will have started the process of impeachment of Usman Ododo to set, the right lesson and give the right lesson. I'm happy the Federal Republic of Nigeria, through the Attorney General, are taking the stand that they took, and they have said, subject yourself and stop disgracing Nigeria. Ododo and Yahaya Bello, subject yourself to it. And if you don't do that, I hope the military will not now come in to come and wield the what do you call it now, the hammer,
Yes,
to kill a snail.
well, now that the federal government has intervened, we wait and see what would eventually, come out of the whole discussions, let me say. Akin Fatunke,
yes.
Political Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for lending your thoughts on this issue.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
and
you
you
very
have
much,
a nice day. Nigeria shall grow.
Amen to that prayer, sir. Thank you so much. Well, that's how much we can take on this episode of the program. And thanks for watching. See you again next time.